Okay, welcome to the Strategy Sync YouTube channel. If you haven't already, please do subscribe and like so you can hear new book summaries that, honestly, can really change how you think about your professional growth.
They really can.
And today we are doing a serious deep dive into a book that aims to, well, fundamentally redefine how we think about career moves. It's called Never Search Alone: The Job Seeker's Playbook by Phyl.
A fantastic read.
It is. And look, let's not mince words here. We're going to start this dive with a pretty painful truth. It's one that Marty Kagan lays out right in the foreword.
Yeah, he doesn't pull any punches.
No, he really doesn't. He points out that far too many smart, talented professionals are, trapped. They're stuck in jobs they don't love, working on things that just don't feel like they matter.
For people who, frankly, don't care about their growth.
Exactly. For leaders who just aren't invested. And what's the typical fix? The standard playbook. Update your resume, maybe send out a few LinkedIn messages, and just start blindly applying online.
The spray and pray method.
Right. And Kagan says this whole approach is fundamentally broken because it leaves you, the job seeker, completely alone and unprepared. It's just... It's an anxiety machine.
It really is.
So our mission today is to tear down that solo, anxiety-fueled search and replace it with a real structure. We're going to unpack Terry's 5-step methodology, which he calls social search.
I love that name.
Me too. And it's not just about, escaping a bad job. This is a strategic roadmap. It's a shortcut, really, to finding that perfect fit for your unique value.
And then negotiating for way more than just salary.
Yes, and making sure you're actually set up to succeed from the very first day you walk in the door.
And what makes this book so compelling, I think, isn't just the theory. It's the sheer rigor behind how it was created. Terry didn't just write a self-help book from his armchair.
No.
He treated this whole thing like a massive software development project. I mean, think about this. He coached over 2,000 job seekers over 2 decades. 2,000. Then he did 200 deep dive interviews to figure out what actually worked, what didn't. And then he iterated. He went through over 400 drafts of this process based on real-world feedback.
So we're essentially looking at the form first draft.
We are. This is a thoroughly tested, battle-hardened system. And that data-driven approach, it really informs the central idea of the book, which sounds simple, but is actually pretty revolutionary.
Which is?
Never search alone.
Simple as that.
Simple as that. The core of his social search methodology is actually borrowed straight from Silicon Valley product strategy. It's all about achieving what he calls candidate market fit. We'll probably just call it CMF to keep it simple.
Okay, let's stop right there, because that concept, CMF, feels like the engine for this entire process. When we say candidate market fit, what are we really talking about?
That's a great question. So think of yourself, your skills, your experience, your personality. Think of yourself as the product you're bringing to market.
Yeah, I'm the product.
You're the product. Candidate market fit is that sweet spot. It's the perfect intersection where what you offer, what you are uniquely good at, aligns with a real, current, and paying market need.
So it's not just what I want to do, it's what the market actually wants from me.
Precisely. And the book just hammers this point home. If you skip this discovery step and you go straight to interviewing, you are basically launching a product without doing any market research.
And we know how that usually ends.
We do. The result is so predictable. You'll spin your wheels for months, you'll face a ton of rejection that just crushes your confidence. Or, maybe worst of all, you end up taking a suboptimal offer just because you didn't really understand your true value.
So social search fixes this by breaking it down.
It does. It moves you through 5 clear iterative steps. First, form a job search council, or JSC. Second, you do a listening tour. Third, you craft your CMF statement. Fourth, you do focused networking and interviewing. And then finally, fifth, you negotiate for total success.
All right, let's unpack this, starting with step 1. And what's so surprising here is that it focuses almost entirely on your internal state, your mindset. Terry calls the job search an emotional roller coaster.
Which is so true.
So true. And he says the lows are always way more intense and last a lot longer than the highs. So success, he argues, it really begins and ends with managing your emotional balance.
It's the foundation for everything else.
It is. He points to 3 huge anxieties that just sabotage even the most qualified people. First, you got the immediate fear of losing your income, right? Even if you have savings,
Oh yeah, that's always there.
it's always there. Second, and this one is maybe the most damaging, is that deep erosion of your self-worth. It happens when you're not working or you're just getting rejected over and over. That inner critic just gets so loud.
It runs wild.
And the third one, which is so insidious, is this cultural myth we all buy into, that asking for help is somehow a sign of weakness.
And that third point is just, it's so critical. It links directly to your career outcome. I mean, Terry's research from those 200 interviews, it showed this stunning correlation.
What did he find?
Almost 85% of executives who made it to senior management, they credited their success not just to being good at their jobs, but to their ability to build a support community and, crucially, to master the skill of asking for help.
So asking for help is a strength, not a weakness.
It's a core strength.
Yeah.
And conversely, 85% of people who get stuck in the same junior or mid-level role for years, they admit they almost never ask for help. They think they have to figure it all out alone. And that leaves their network weak and their emotional tank empty.
This sets up such a perfect contrast in the book, The Story of Olivia.
Right.
She just internalized all that anxiety. She felt this extreme pressure to get a paycheck, so she decided she had to move fast. And she actively skipped the whole slow, methodical process of discovery and community building.
She just wanted out.
She just wanted out and into the next job fast.
And the result was this clear pattern of failure. Or at least, profound dissatisfaction. She ended up taking 4 consecutive boomerang jobs, as Terry calls them.
Boomerang jobs. I like that.
Yeah, each one lasted about a year before she'd leave, usually because it was a bad fit. She was constantly chasing the next paycheck, which meant she never paused to figure out her actual candidate market fit. She was just jumping from one bad situation to another.
Okay, so now you contrast her story with Maura Castro. I mean, this is a huge success story. She was Warby Parker's first employee, a senior leader. She definitely didn't need to worry about money.
Not at all.
And yet, when she decided to move on after a decade, she admitted she felt the exact same emotional fragility and anxiety as Olivia. She felt incredibly vulnerable.
And that's the key. Instead of letting that anxiety push her into panic applying, she intentionally leaned into it. She worked with her peer counsel, her job search counsel.
And what did that do for her?
Well, her counsel gave her the emotional buffer she needed to just slow down. They helped her objectively look at company cultures, to understand the real internal politics of the roles she was considering.
Things you can't see from the outside.
Impossible to see. And then, when the time came, they helped her confidently negotiate an offer that really set her up for long-term stability and success. The difference wasn't competence, it was the connection.
That brings us to this idea from Dr. Thomas Insel, the former director of the National Institute of Mental Health. He talks about the knowing-doing gap.
Yes. This is so important. You can know intellectually that you need to make a change. You can read all the books. But that knowledge often fails to actually motivate you to act.
So what does?
True growth, Insel says, comes from what he calls mutually reinforcing activity. It's the social context of the job search council. When you see your peers taking risks, asking for tough advice, and then succeeding, it gives you the emotional courage to do the same.
I find that idea, mutually reinforcing activity, so compelling. It turns the job search from this lonely self-improvement project into, like, a shared mission.
It becomes a team sport.
It does, and I want to dig into the psychology of how this works, especially for the person who's giving the help. It's not just about the person on the receiving end.
Exactly. Carrie brings up the gratitude effect, and this is based on research by Adam Grant and Francesca Gino. When you, the job seeker, make a genuine request for help, you get some good advice, and then you express sincere, specific gratitude. It has a huge impact on the helper.
How so?
The helper experiences, and I'm quoting here, stronger feelings of self-efficacy and social worth. You are essentially giving the gift of happiness and confidence to the person who helped you.
So asking for help isn't a burden, it's a gift.
It's a gift. It creates this virtuous cycle. Helping others boosts the helper's own emotional balance sheet, which makes the whole community stronger and more sustainable.
Okay, so let's get practical. Terry's advice for setting up your job search council is really specific. And I want to get into the most counterintuitive part. He strongly advises you recruit strangers or acquaintances. He calls them weak ties.
Right.
Now, wait a minute. If I'm sharing my deepest insecurities, my financial fears, really confidential, intimate details, why on earth would I do that with people I barely know instead of my best friend or my closest former colleague? Isn't that just asking for trouble?
It's a fantastic question, and it really gets to the genius of the methodology. Terry is so specific for a very good reason. Your close friends, your strong ties, they often share your same industry biases.
Sure, you're in the same bubble.
You're in the same bubble.
Yeah.
They might even unconsciously feel a little competitive with you. Or they might just be too sympathetic to give you the honest, objective feedback you desperately need. They'll tell you what you want to hear, not what you need to hear.
So they're too close to be objective.
Exactly. Weak ties, on the other hand, especially people who are walking the exact same path as you right now, they offer three huge advantages. First, they have incredibly diverse networks, which multiplies your contacts way outside your normal circle.
Okay, if that makes sense.
Second, they bring totally different, unbiased perspectives on your resume, your strategy. And third, and this is the most important part, they immediately establish what's called cognitive empathy.
Cognitive empathy, what's that?
You're not connecting based on a shared history. You're connecting based on a shared current struggle. Because you are both facing the exact same anxieties, the same challenges, trust forms almost instantly. Competition gets replaced by hope and vulnerability. The relationship just accelerates.
That totally reframes the risk. So the structure of the meetings is key to keeping it productive.
Absolutely. The founder moderates, and the meetings have a simple three-part structure: quick updates, short requests for help, and then longer joint exercises from the book. This keeps it from turning into just, group therapy. It keeps it focused on action.
And this structure is really about confronting the most dangerous problem in any job search, which is your own blind spots.
Yes. This is basically Kahneman's conundrum. We are, as he says, predictably irrational, and we are often frustratingly blind to our own mistakes. We know we repeat them, but we can't see them happening in the moment.
So the JSC is like the external warning bell that we all lack.
It's the perfect way to put it. You see this so clearly in the story about Juana and Andre. Juana was this super successful manager. Intellectually, she knew all the negotiation tactics. She'd read the books. She could advise anyone else.
But she couldn't do it for herself.
Never. Time after time, she would accept the first lowball salary offer. She'd justify it by telling herself, oh, I'm just lucky to have a job, or I don't want to rock the boat. That was her classic blind spot.
And then she saw her peer, Andre.
Right. Her peer, Andre, was negotiating at the same time, and he just casually shared his strategy. He didn't just ask for more once. He pushed back on an offer twice and got a huge bump in his compensation.
And that was the wake-up call.
It was the jolt she needed. Seeing Andre succeed made her own pattern visible as what it was: a mistake, an emotional weakness. Her intellectual knowledge finally translated into action because her peer gave her the context and the accountability she needed.
Okay, so that's the foundation. Now we move from the emotional to the strategic. Step 2, the listening tour.
Yes, and this whole phase is about objective market research. Terry says you need to commit at least 2 to 3 weeks to this, minimum. Longer if you're still working.
We said before that this phase is really emotionally tough. I mean, why slow down when every instinct is telling you to speed up?
Because the emotional cost of skipping it is just too high.
Look, the listening tour is not networking. It's essential user research on yourself as the product.
Okay.
If you skip it, you just rush into interviews for jobs that are a bad fit because the title looked good or something. The book uses the example of Krista, who used her interviews as her research.
Which sounds efficient, but it's not. It's a disaster. She got rejected multiple times for roles she wasn't a good match for, and she immediately spiraled. She started thinking, no one will ever want me. The rejection just completely stalled her search. The listening tour prevents that self-sabotage. You gather the data before you put your confidence on the line.
So you need data, but you can't just go in cold. The homework for this is creating something called the Mnookin two-pager.
Right, named after Alison Mnookin at Harvard Business School. It's a simple document, but it forces you to get clear on 4 things: what you love and hate doing, your career must-haves, your must-nots, and then your short and long-term goals.
And in that first section, Terry recommends a really clever trick: the inversion exercise.
Yes, invert, always invert. You don't start with the vague question, what do I love? You start with the very concrete reality of your professional hell. What do I absolutely hate doing?
I find that so useful psychologically. It's much easier for our brains to identify what we hate than what we love.
It is. Mnookin herself did this and realized her career hell was sitting in an office alone thinking deep thoughts. That one insight steered her away from isolated analytical roles and toward collaborative operational roles for years. It helps you separate what you're just good at from what actually gives you energy.
Okay, so you've got your two-pager. The next step before the tour starts is the Gratitude House exercise. This is supposed to build your confidence and generate your contact list at the same time.
It's a brilliant exercise.
Right.
The stakes are simple. First, you list everyone, and I mean everyone, who has helped you professionally in the last 10 or 20 years.
Okay.
You note their specific contribution. Then, you sit down and you write unique, heartfelt thank you letters to each person. But here's the key. You don't send them. Not yet.
Why not? What's the point of holding them back?
The initial goal is purely psychological. If your self-worth is low, writing down the hundreds of ways people have invested in you is it's empirical evidence that you're valued. It immediately quiets that inner critic.
And holding the letters avoids the awkwardness of saying thanks and then immediately asking for a favor.
Exactly. It keeps the gratitude pure. And this whole exercise reminds you that your career is part of a life of service. Terry stresses that after every single interaction on your tour, you send a thank you note and you commit to sending regular updates. This turns your network into proactive listening posts for you.
So now we get to the actual conversations on the tour. The first of the three components is reverse exit interviews, or REIs.
Yes. You're setting up meetings with former colleagues or bosses, and you're asking two very direct questions. What did I do well, and what could I have done better?
That takes a lot of vulnerability.
A huge amount, but it gives you the most objective data you'll ever get. Internal politics are gone. They're not your boss anymore. They're usually honored that you respect their opinion enough to ask for the unvarnished truth.
And that feedback can be transformative. We saw it with David Crowder, who learned he needed to focus more, not just work harder.
Yes, and that one insight changed his whole career trajectory. Then there's that amazing story of the senior Comcast executive who got fired. Instead of getting bitter, he immediately started doing REIs. He asked, what could I have done differently?
And what did he learn?
He learned he'd underestimated the power sources in the company and that he didn't know his own team well enough. His courage in seeking that feedback just blew his former colleagues away.
Okay, second component of the tour, the interview itself. Terry offers a big redesign here with the golden question.
This is a game changer. Instead of a normal informational interview, you ask this. If you were in my shoes, how would you approach this job search?
Oh, that's good.
Isn't it? It completely changes their role. You're no longer asking them for a job. You're asking them to be your strategic partner, to apply their expertise to your problem. It invites these creative, expansive answers.
And this leads to discoveries you could never make on your own. The book tells the story of Heather Fisher O'Neill.
Heather's story is the perfect example of this. She was a talented poet, an adjunct professor, but she was really struggling financially. She knew she could write, but she had no idea how to turn that into a stable corporate career.
So she asked the golden question.
Over and over. And on her listening tour, this concept of long-form copywriting kept coming up. It was a viable, specialized, well-paying career path she didn't even know existed. She discovered her market fit entirely from the outside in.
The third component is talking to recruiters.
Right. And you don't go to them asking for a job. You approach them like a consultant. You make it clear you're in the discovery phase and you want their objective expertise on the market.
So what do you ask them?
You show them your two-pager and you ask three tactical questions. 1, what job could I get tomorrow with no effort? That's your baseline. 2, what might be a stretch? That's your target. And 3, what is definitively out of my league?
That last one is the hardest to ask, I'd imagine.
It's the hardest to ask, but it's the most valuable to hear. It can save you months of wasted time. Look at the story of Antoine. He'd spent a whole year chasing CEO roles with zero success, all ego.
And then he talked to a recruiter.
A recruiter was brutally honest with him. He said, look, you're a perfect fit for strategy roles, but CEO is out of reach for now. You don't have the P&L track record. That objective feedback let Antoine refocus his search, and he got offers almost immediately in roles where he could actually win.
Okay, so we've done the research, we've mapped reality. Now step 3 is about making a choice, forming your candidate market fit.
This is the hard part. This is where you have to acknowledge reality. Terry says a goal is a destination, but a strategy is the path. If your goal, say, becoming a C-level exec is out of reach today, you need a multi-step strategy that starts with what the market will hire you for right now.
And that takes a lot of ego management.
A huge amount. The story of Robert is a great example. He was a senior exec in old media, wanted to break into a big Silicon Valley tech company. His listening tour confirmed that his old media experience was basically worthless there.
Ouch.
Yeah. His CMF, right now, was for a lower-level product manager job. That's it. Yeah. So with the help of his JSC, He swallowed his pride. He took the junior role just to get tech credibility. 2 years later, he jumped to a senior role at another tech company. It was a perfect multi-step strategy.
So once you have that CMF, it has to be super focused. Terry calls it a cozy little box.
Right, which is so counterintuitive. We all want to keep our options open. But a vague message just gets you vague, low-quality opportunities. That tight, focused CMF directs all your efforts toward the high-value opportunities where you have a real chance.
And only now, after all this work, are you finally ready to update your LinkedIn and your resume.
Exactly. The conventional search starts here. The social search proves this has to be one of the last steps. And it has to be a paired exercise with a JSC member. You are just too close to your own experience to be objective.
They can spot the jargon you don't even realize is jargon.
They can, like Sally and Brett in the book. They helped each other translate their company's internal language into simple, search-optimized language a recruiter would actually understand. They also helped each other fix their titles to match industry standards.
And the book stresses you need to be the two resumes.
You absolutely do. You need one version that is just stuffed with keywords designed to get past the computer, the applicant tracking system. And then you need a totally separate, clean, achievement-focused version for the human you'll hand it to in the interview. One resume can't do both jobs.
Okay, let's move to step 4, networking and execution. You have your CMF, now you have to keep up the momentum.
And to do that, Terry recommends using the Megabo dashboard. It's just a simple tracking tool to log your outreach and your calls. The whole point is accountability, to make sure you're always setting up future meetings so you don't have those crushing quiet weeks.
And when you're reaching out, the book is very clear about warm introductions.
Always insist that the person making the introduction asks for permission first. A cold intro where they just CC you on an email is usually a waste of everyone's time.
But what if you have to go cold? What's the strategy for level 2 cold contacting?
You have to be helpful first. It's the 5-minute favor idea. Don't ask for anything. Instead, find something that's important to them and offer something useful. Share a relevant article. Offer an introduction to someone in your network. You build reciprocity before you ever make a request.
So once that networking leads to interviews, your research has to focus on sniffing out red flags. Bad products, bad strategy, and bad culture.
You are interviewing them just as much as they are interviewing you. For strategy, you need to look for the 4 signs of a bad strategy that Richard Romelt identified.
Let's break those down. What's the first sign?
The first is fluff. This is that abstract, jargon-heavy language that sounds impressive but means nothing. If their strategy sounds like a buzzword salad, that's a huge red flag.
Okay, what's number 2?
Second is a lack of recognition of the challenge. Are they just ignoring huge, obvious external threats, like a big retailer pretending e-commerce isn't a thing? It's just organizational denial.
And the third?
Mistaking goals for strategy. We will be number 1. Is a goal. It's not a strategy. The strategy is the how. It's the specific moves you'll make. If they can't articulate the how, they don't have a strategy.
And the last one?
And fourth, bad strategic objectives. These are goals that are just completely disconnected from reality. They're impossible or totally vague. If you see 2 or more of those signs, you need to be very, very careful.
The cultural red flags are even harder to spot, which brings us to back-channel research.
It's non-negotiable. You have to get around the polished formal interview process. You use your JSC network to find and talk to former employees. This is your most critical due diligence, especially when it comes to your potential boss.
The story of Allison is a perfect and kind of painful example of why this matters so much.
It is. Allison was being recruited for a big leadership job. She was really excited. But her back-channeling revealed the truth about the CEO she'd be reporting to. He was a severe micromanager, he was quick to anger, and he had a history of being personally abusive, especially to the women on his team.
Wow.
Yeah. If she had just trusted the formal interviews, she would have walked right into a disaster that could have wrecked her career and her mental health. That back-channel info gave her the courage to turn the job down.
And then the final tool for a serious candidate is to create the job mission with OKRs. That's objectives and key results.
This is a huge power move. It's where you, the candidate, draft a document outlining the exact results you promised to deliver in the role, tied to measurable outcomes.
It's like you're taking ownership of the job before you even have it.
That's exactly what it is. And it gives you 5 massive benefits. It ensures you and the hiring manager are aligned. It deeply impresses them. It gives you huge leverage for negotiation, and it becomes your operating manual on day 1.
And you should practice this with a JSC partner.
You have to. You do paired interview prep, you practice your delivery, and you come up with a list of really sharp, probing questions to ask them. Like, when two teams disagree on priorities, how does that disagreement actually get resolved? That one question tells you everything you need to know about their real culture.
Okay, finally, step 5, negotiation. This is the big moment, and it's where fear can take over.
It is, but the data is so clear. 83% of the time, if you ask for more money, you get it. The initial offer almost always has a cushion built in. The only barrier is psychological.
And that's where the JSE comes in again, for courage and for data.
And for the right framing. The story of Rebecca is so powerful here. She was about to accept a lowball offer because she felt insecure. Her counsel gave her this game-changing advice. Stop negotiating for yourself. Start negotiating for your family.
How did that reframe change things for her?
It completely transformed her conviction. When she went back to the company, she wasn't arguing from a place of personal ego. She was advocating for her family's future. That shift gave her the steel to push back with confidence.
And the result?
A 25% higher salary, enough to fund her daughter's college tuition. She realized the negotiation wasn't about her, and that gave her the strength to ask for what she was worth.
But the book argues that salary is only one part of the equation. Negotiating for budget, resources, and support is often even more important. It's the jet fuel for your career.
It's the most overlooked tactical tip in the whole book. People stop at salary because it's the easiest number to focus on. But a high salary with no resources to succeed is just high-paid failure. Securing the budget and support you need on day one is what really accelerates your career.
And this is where your job mission with the OKRs becomes your leverage.
It's your currency. Look at Wallace. He was taking on a huge operational role, but he knew the company was crippled by $20 million in technical debt, old broken systems.
So he used his job mission.
His JSC insisted on it. He used his job mission, which detailed the amazing results he could deliver if that debt was retired, to demand that the CEO commit in writing to funding that budget commitment up front.
And because he got that commitment,
he was set up for a massive win. He cleaned up the operation in record time, looked like a strategic genius, and was being considered for the CEO job within 18 months. That career acceleration came directly from negotiating for resources, not just salary.
So what are some other examples of support you can negotiate for?
It could be anything. Funding for new hires, a budget for new technology, executive coaching, or even a commitment from the CEO to help you get on a board of directors.
Like Lauren did.
Exactly. Lauren negotiated dedicated funding for board preparation coaching, linking it directly to her strategic value to the company. It was a long-term investment in her growth.
So once the offer is signed, the work isn't done. You move into pre-start preparation, more back channeling.
You got it. More focused back channeling on your new boss and your key peers. You need to understand their operating style before day one. Like Mark, who learned his new boss, was demanding but also coachable. That insight let him walk in on day one with the perfect, humble, receptive attitude, which built a great relationship.
And you have to do another inversion exercise here, asking your JSC, how can I fail at this job?
Right, you anticipate the risks. Chandra did this before taking over a massive, chaotic global operation. Her counsel told her, you will fail if you don't hire a rock-solid EA immediately. And, counterintuitively, you need to under-communicate in this chaotic environment. That pre-failure analysis gave her a clear roadmap for her first 90 days.
Then there's the first 90 days peer coaching call, or PCC.
This is such a high-level move. You get 3 or 4 non-competing peers who are already doing your exact job at other companies on a call. A new head of HR at one company talks to the HR chiefs from the NBA, Amazon, and Comcast. They can give you advice on the political landmines that only someone in that seat would know.
And the final piece is creating a user manual for your new team.
It's a brilliant leadership tool, even if it feels vulnerable. You create a document that describes how you work, your communication preferences, and critically, your weaknesses.
Like Adam Medros at ADX.
Exactly. His manual says he tends to react too quickly in meetings, and he asks his team to help him slow down. It just builds this incredible foundation of trust and psychological safety from the very first day.
So as we wrap this up, the big message here seems to be that you can't build a career that's built to last because the world changes too fast.
Right. But you can absolutely build one that's built to last longer.
Yeah.
With job tenure shrinking all the time, you have to get good at adapting and continuously asking for help. It has to become a permanent skill.
And that's the real takeaway. All these successes we talked about, finding the right CMF, negotiating for that technical debt, it's not some grand solitary act of genius.
Not at all. As Terry says, it's a sequence of small, friendly, persistent steps. The quick email update, the sincere thank you note, the check-in with your counsel, it's all rooted in that mutually reinforcing activity.
And the journey doesn't end when you sign the offer.
Absolutely not. The next logical step is to convert your job search counsel into a permanent career counsel. This becomes your personal advisory board that stays with you, helping you navigate office politics, growth decisions, all the challenges of the new role. This is really the future of leadership development.
Okay, let's leave our listeners with a final thought to mull over, one that brings us right back to the foundation of this whole process, emotional balance.
Right. So recall the powerful lesson of the gratitude effect. If you are struggling with insecurity, if you're feeling isolated in your professional life, remember this key insight. Asking for help gives the person you ask a feeling of social worth. It makes them feel good. Giving the gift of gratitude is one of the fastest ways to improve your own emotional balance sheet.
So the question is,
what specific piece of advice or insight did someone give you recently that really helped you? Can you take 2 minutes right now, today, to thank them for it? And in doing so, bring a little more joy to both of you.